Skidmore,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Kaler,
Present.
Commissioner Clayton,
Present.
and Commissioner Crowley.
Present.
Okay, everybody's here tonight. We do have a full quorum, and we will, I want to welcome everybody. First of all, we got a great crowd here. Do we need extra chairs? We got enough chairs for everybody, I guess, so that's good news. But anyway, look also for the people watching on some form of media. So we'll start tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer by somebody. Somebody, you again? I guess I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's pray. Father in heaven, we give you thanks again for this meeting, for the folks that are here. It's just great to see the young people in our community interested in being involved in our community as well. We see future leaders in there, and someday some of these children will be up here leading this community, and we just give you thanks for that opportunity, and I pray that you'll guide them and direct them in that. And Lord, as we look over the agenda tonight, we see things we need to discuss. We just ask for your divine wisdom, which you give liberally to all who ask, and for also for discernment, for just clarity of mind that we can discuss these things openly. And Lord, that the decisions we make will glorify you. And Lord, we also just obviously see how the way you've blessed our community in so many ways. It doesn't take long to look around and see. You've deliberately blessed us. And for that we give you thanks. We commit this time to you. Thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll start with public comments tonight. Any?
We have none registered.
Okay, thank you. We'll dispense with the reading of that. We'll go with appointments, proclamations, recognitions, nominations, and public hearings. We'll start with A on that one. You want to read that?
Proclamation recognizing February 2024 as Black History Month.
February has been set aside nationally for Black History Month to allow an opportunity for citizens to become aware of the contributions African Americans have made. Donald Anderson, Ottawa University, will accept the proclamation. It'll be read by Commissioner Kaler.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson created an association for the study of Negro life and history, now called the Association for the Study of Afro-American Life and History, and in 1926 introduced Negro History Week. And whereas in 1976, part of America's bicentennial celebration, the week was extended to a month and now officially is known as Black History Month. And whereas February has been set aside nationally for the observance of Black History Month, allowing an opportunity for many citizens in Ottawa to become aware of the contributions that African Americans have made towards the empowerment of the Ottawa community and country. And whereas today, Black History Month continues to be an important time of reflection and celebration for all Americans. And whereas this observation of Black History Month must lead to the day when the history of the world will void the national bias, race hate, and religious prejudice. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we are a community of community access, where we are positioned at this time in our history and determined where we are going in the future. Let it be further resolved that a true and objective presentation of history eliminates the foundation of racism for some and increases the self-esteem for others. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby recognize the month of February 2024 as Black History Month and urges all of its citizens to join in the observation of this month. Signed this the 7th day of February 2024 by our Mayor, Michael Skidmore.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Richard, are you accepting this today? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Let me come down.
Thank you, Mayor.
sorry I didn't make the Martin Luther King program, but they told me you were there on time and you stayed in your seat and you didn't move, so that was a positive.
You heard right.
Right. I want to thank you for the proclamation. You know, actually, you read through that proclamation, it really says everything that you need to know about Black History Month. And as you mentioned, Carter G. Woodson started that, and it used to be a week, and now it's a month. But when we talk about Black History Month and we talk about February, we got the shortest month of the year as well as the coldest month of the year. But we'll make that work. I got some information I'm gonna leave with you. I'm not gonna take the time to go through it. But the Kansas American Trial History, I think, was put out by the Kansas Commerce Commission. It's got information in there on Black history. Gordon Parks from Fort Scott, first African American to be a photographer for life. George Washington Carver actually was born in Missouri, moved to Kansas. He was the peanut man, so if you like peanut butter, you owe that to him. If you don't like peanut butter, you still owe that to him. The Buffalo Soldiers, Nicodemus. A number of years ago, we did have the Buffalo Soldiers here in Ottawa, and they were able to go to all of the, doing reenactment and go to all of the middle schools, so they've got some information. Another thing that I'll leave with you is Black history, and it starts with 1400 and goes to 18 something, and I do have one that has the current history. I can't find it. Some of you that haven't retired yet, you have no problem putting your hands on things that you need. It seems like when you're retired, you can't find anything. Well, I found this, and I couldn't find that. Couple last things to give it a little flavor here. In Ottawa, if we talk about Black History Month, and you could say it's like a salad bowl. It takes a little bit of everything to make a salad. It takes a little bit of everything to make this country, to make this community, to make the city go. So we all, as I've said, we've all come over on somebody's boat. When you stop and think about it, your ancestors, there are many ancestors, they all came over on different boats, but it takes all to make this country great. Dr. Marvin Wilson was the first African-American doctor, I believe, in Ottawa. He never practiced here. He practiced as a surgical practice in Topeka for a number of years, as well as a radio station, was a former graduate of Ottawa University, and at one time held all of the track records, speed records at Ottawa High School and at Ottawa University. The first graduate from OU was in 1927, and he was a minister from Garlette. A little closer to maybe some of your ages, the Simi Ojale, which is a basketball player, went from Ottawa here, and All-State, went on to play basketball for the Boston Celtics. We had an African-American police chief. First school board member was Reverend Stacy Hopkins, pastor of Bethany Baptist Church. There was a similar suit, similar to the Brown versus Topeka Board of Education, that was held here in Ottawa and ended up going to the state Supreme Court, but it didn't have the same ruling as the federal. On the Topeka Board versus Board of Education, Donald had texted this to me. They're having a seminar hookup thing this Friday, I believe the 9th at noon, but it deals with women of the Topeka Brown, those behind the scenes. So I'll leave those with the city manager, and he can pass those around, and when you're through with the other two, you can get those back to me. And again, I thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Glad you're feeling better. I'm sorry you missed the program too, but yeah, I appreciate that very much for coming in tonight. I had the opportunity to teach fourth grade class at Garfield this last week, and we talked a little about Black History Month. And I brought up to the children, you know, if somebody has blonde hair, red hair, gray hair, we don't think anything of it. We all bleed red. We all have clear tears. The only difference sometimes is the skin color. And why is it that makes a difference for people? Why does that make it a problem for people? And I just tried to bring that up. There were a couple black students in the class, and I hope that generation by generation we'll get to the point where it won't even be a noticeable difference. I brought this up at the Martin Luther King ceremony, that the children who wrote the essays, which they did a great job, and Richard told me this beforehand, I read them, and wow, they were really impressive. All these children writing these essays, and they get it. I know we had to just pick one. That's the hardest job as mayor, to pick just one as the winner. But what impressed me is they all get the message, and I'm happy about that. So our next generation coming up hopefully will continue to evolve and to grow and to recognize that we're all equal in one. So thank you, Richard, for being here, and thank you for accepting this proclamation. It's very important. Thank you. Let's move on to our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the January 31, 2024 meeting and the agenda approval. Do we have a motion?
So-
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there
Second.
And there's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Declaration. We at this time like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. We're good there? Good. Let's go on to unfinished business, please.
Item A, ordinance establishing a permitting process for temporary events where alcoholic beverages will be sold or served.
Amendment to Section 4.101 of the Municipal Code, adding a new Article 9 to Chapter 4 titled Common Consumption. The article outlines the requirements for a common consumption area downtown, and our attorney, Blaine Finch, will discuss this.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here before you tonight and to follow former Commissioner and Mayor Richard Jackson, who it was my honor to serve with on the City Commission many years ago, and have him here tonight to talk about the importance of recognizing Black History Month. The ordinance that you have before you tonight is a draft, and I'll tell you now that it would be my recommendation that you not take action on it tonight. There are a couple of things I'd still like to tighten up within it, but I wanted to get a draft to you because I know that Ottawa Main Street has been diligent in bringing this issue to you, and we want to keep it moving forward if that is the Commission's desire. I will tell you that despite the really nice mild weather we've had recently, we probably won't be having a lot of street festivals in the month of February in Ottawa. I think we do have enough time to talk about this a little bit longer. I want to give you the overarching architecture of how a common consumption area would work. The state has authorized these common consumption areas, and it's unfortunate we have so many high school students here tonight because they don't know anything about this drinking or power and light district in Kansas City. And that is kind of the model for common consumption areas is areas like power and light. Having pedestrian-friendly, walkable areas where people can take can buy a drink in one area and then walk around within a festival, within an event, and if they go to another place, they can buy a drink there. So this is the state has authorized this via legislation, and the city would have to apply for, if you approve this ordinance, a common consumption area permit that the city would hold in its name from the state. And then this ordinance calls for people who want to use that area to also obtain a license or a permit from the city for that special event. And this is not new. You have temporary event permits for sale of alcohol in public places, and you have a special event permit for the sale of beer, or what we call enhanced cereal malt beverage in places. And you've seen those activated before. The Fair Board has had one before for a concert, and we've seen several at Legacy Square on those types of special event permits. So let's walk through this ordinance real quick so I can give you a flavor for what you're reading. The first section is an amendment of the current definitions for the whole of the alcohol chapter of the code. We added the term director there because we reference the director and the rules and regulations promulgated by the director of the Alcohol and Beverage Control Division of the Kansas Department of Revenue. We've amended the definition of licensee. So while we have a CCA permit that the state will grant to the city and a CCA permit that the city will grant to the user or holder of a festival, the licensees, the liquor stores, liquor dispensers, those who have cereal malt beverage licenses also have licenses from ABC. And for cereal malt beverage, they have a license directly from the city. So Kansas liquor laws are incredibly complex, and there are an interlocking network of licenses that go into this. So that's why we're amending the definition section to make sure we cover all of that. Section 2 just says we're creating a new article within the municipal code, and the following sections will all be part of that new article on common consumption. Section 3 is the area for common consumption, and that begins at, in this case, we've just kind of done a meets and bounds, so you can read through that and follow along, but suffice it to say, the corner of 5th and Walnut, down 5th to Hickory, down Hickory, all the way to the base of the levee, and then wrapping around to the bridge over Main Street, and then going around the square basically to catch Fronteras, Kansas State Bank, and the depot would then be adjacent. So they could have a caterer who could sell into the area if they wanted to. Back up the trail to the levee, along the levee behind Fronteras, back across the Main Street Bridge, and then back along the base of the levee over to the trail again, skipping the pedestrian bridge over the river just because of the potential risks there, and then coming back down Walnut Street to the place of beginning. So it's pretty much a rectangle, which is what you all had talked about. Of course, that can be changed depending on what you want, whether you want the pedestrian bridge in or out. I've tried to follow along the base of the levee in those places so that we're very clear that there's no alcohol on the floodworks. There's nobody walking over the levee with open containers and down by the river, and we're keeping that kind of confined to the Main Street Bridge, which will be easier for law enforcement patrols, and there are pedestrian safety barriers on that bridge as people walk across. So when we mix pedestrians who are drinking and vehicular traffic, obviously we want to make sure that we're trying to keep those folks as safe as possible. Section B of Section 3 talks about public roadways being able to be shut down. The prior state law required them to be shut down when an area, common consumption area, was active, and now it's a may instead of a shall. So this just follows through with that, and that's something that we'll be asking applicants, if you pass this, do you want vehicular traffic to be shut down for some reason? Because it is not the case that one has to use all of the common consumption area. So if someone just wanted to close down, 4th Street outside Corner Market, or if the brewery wanted to use 2nd Street or 3rd Street there, alongside the courthouse, they could just ask to activate part of the common consumption area. And so we want to be clear that there may be times when you want traffic and shut down, and times when it doesn't matter to the event organizers. So Section 4 is the hours. The hours mirror the times when sales can take place in Ottawa. We had talked about days. This draft does not include any restriction on days. So the common consumption area could be activated on any one of the 7 days of the week, but within those hours. And the idea there was, as soon as we started to delineate Wednesday through Friday, somebody was going to ask for a Saturday event, or Wednesday to Saturday, somebody would say, what about Tuesday night, or we want to have a Super Bowl celebration for the Chiefs on Monday after they beat the 49ers, or there's always going to be something that as soon as we set those dates. So following a lot of other cities, we just left the dates out. We can put them in if you want, but just know those are the hours that you all allow for the sale of liquor in the city, and so we kind of went with that. Section 5 clarifies what I've said earlier. You have to have both a state CCA permit, which the city will apply for and obtain if you all approve this, and then the event organizer has to also get a permit from the city. So we have details about what's going on. We can plan for resource allocation, law enforcement, EMS, et cetera, if there's an event going on. Who can sell? That's Section 6, and this is the list of the folks who can sell. You can sell out of a licensed premise. So, for example, Pizza Village or Pizza Time could sell in their cups, and people could walk down the street with those. The brewery could do the same. Anybody, but you can also be adjacent to the area. So, for example, a caterer like the Bottle House could have their own cup, and they could sell because of the way we've defined the area. They will be adjacent to it, and so they will be able to sell. The Depot's another one that I mentioned that could theoretically get a caterer's license or bring in a caterer and have their cups and do this. Every licensed premise has the ability to have a non-contiguous sale point. So, for example, if you sold alcoholic liquors and you were not in the area, you could apply for a non-contiguous permit from the state to be able to sell an area off premises. So for example, if we were having a big street festival and the organizer said, we want to set up all of the alcohol sales at Legacy Square. And so everybody could set up non-contiguous areas there and sell. Or someone who had a business outside of the area wanted to set up a separate non-contiguous station there, they can do that. So this just clarifies that that's the case. That's 1 and 2. And then B is kind of the existing law. So this is no sales can occur as part of a non-licensed premises unless the sales are conducted by. And then there's some folks who, caterers can do that. Or if there's a separate, you still have special event and temporary event permits. So for example, someone could still say, we're going to have a concert at Legacy Square and we're going to have a beer garden, and that's not a common consumption area activity. It's simply confined to that area, and the same requirements that exist today would exist for that event. So we want to call that out in here and make clear if somebody's reading the code, here's the exception. Section 7 covers the authorized containers, and that's something that I think Sarah from Main Street covered with you extensively about, the cups have to be marked and have their own identifying mark that's unique and they're not glass. And then Section 8, you can't purchase something outside of the common consumption area and bring it in. And Section 9 says if you purchase it within the area, you can't take it out. So this is all about creating that defined area. Section 10, inappropriate conduct. These are things that you have a uniform public offense code that covers disorderly conduct and brawling and those sorts of things. But this is just to make clear that if someone is being a problem within this area, they can be forced to leave. Law enforcement can say you got to go under this section of the code, in addition to all of the other abilities that law enforcement has to move people out. But we don't want someone to come in here and ruin everyone else's good time because they're not able to control themselves. 11, compliance by licensees. Everybody has to comply with all state and local ordinances at all times. Authorization, and this is you telling city manager and the rest of us to get busy filing the CCA application with the state. And then the local permit will be done in the same way that we do temporary event permits. So what that means is, and this doesn't mean it's all of the exact same requirements, it means that the form and process is similar. So if someone's saying, what information do I have to give you, we can look to that process and say, okay, here's what has to be in that application. And that just sets out where you're going to be, kind of who are you expecting? Do you need additional resources there? And in this case, we've allowed for the city manager or his designee to put conditions on and approve that permit without having to bring them all back to you. So that allows for the flexibility and the speed that you all said you wanted to see with this, as opposed to some of the other permits. In the past, if there was going to be any alcohol on public space or right-of-way, we have to come to the city commission and get approval. This will say for the CCA, you're basically blessing this area and saying this is okay, and provided that the city manager or his designee is okay with the conditions that the event organizers have given us and we've talked about with them, you allow us to administratively approve that permit without having to wait for a governing body meeting and bring it to you and have a vote. And that will allow us to process applications more quickly than we have in the past and be a little more flexible with this from a process standpoint. The last one is just the amendment of the code section that says where you can drink in town. Previously, there were 3 public exceptions: OMA, the Carnegie Center, the airport, and Legacy should have been in there. And then this just says that you can also do it inside a common consumption area, and that's D on the bottom of that. And then there's a penalty of $500 for violations of this ordinance in particular, in addition to whatever penalties that someone may face for other violations. For example, loss of license from the ABC for selling to minors and the other criminal penalties that exist there. So that's kind of the overview, and sorry to make that completely unexciting. You would think that the idea of being able to stroll down the street and have a beer would be exciting, and I've managed to suck all of the fun out of it. But with that, what questions do you have?
Anybody have any questions for a counselor?
On section 9, purchases within a CCA, no container of alcoholic liquor or enhanced cereal malt beverage. I know a lot of places do to-go drinks. Would this be just the CCA container? Do we need to call that out, or does that? Because it's basically saying no drinks can leave the CCA boundary. Would that affect people buying a drink in a container within the boundary and leaving?
So,
Currently,
Yeah.
you can buy it to go.
right. So, and this is where every statute, every law has a little bit of discretion built in when you read it, because the CCA is not really activated until we have that permit, that local permit. So if there's no local permit going on and somebody goes down to the brewery, for example, and buys a growler of beer to take home with them, this is not going to apply. When the CCA is on and we're selling out of cups and we have people around, we can try to clarify if you're selling to take it out, but you're going to get into a very fine distinction between what liquor is being purchased to go, and you're right, we do have to go now, but most of the retailers within the common consumption area are selling beer. I'm not sure that you have, I guess maybe on queue, you might have one or two that are liquor establishments, but with El Mezcal closing, they were the one that would often sell margaritas to go in the containers in accordance with state law where you have the tape on them and all of that, Commissioner. So we can try to take a stab at that. This is fairly standard language that we see from other cities with common consumption areas. And I think I would say I trust our law enforcement to know, hey,
Yeah, it's,
somebody's buying, 3 marked cups from Pizza Village and walking, outside the area, that's what we're trying to prevent.
All right. Any other questions anybody have?
Did you prepare a quiz for the kids?
I had to prepare a quiz for myself when I opened this back up tonight and took a look at it, so.
Well, that's good. Well, I guess the weather did kind of get ahead of us, Counselor. You're right on that as far as a timetable. But you're suggesting we wait another week on this. You say you want to fine tune it a little bit.
I'd like to make just a couple of quick edits so that when you pass it, it's in final form. But if what I hear tonight from the 5 of you is consensus that, hey, we like this, we like the parameters in this, we won't let any grass grow in terms of finalizing the draft and having it ready for you to take action on next week, if that's your desire.
Everybody good with that?
did you say you were wanting to add Legacy Square to 14A?
I'll check and make sure I didn't pull that from an older section of the code.
Okay.
Because we've allowed that in the past by special use and temporary use permit. It's not allowed of right like it is at OMA.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to talk here later tonight about OMA in particular. So it may be timely that there may actually be a code change that I need to make to this based on your subsequent conversation tonight. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And to add to the boundaries, what would be required of that? Just a change of this, just like our neighborhood revitalization program?
Yeah, so this is an ordinary ordinance, Mr. Mayor, and remember that we amend ordinary ordinances by the same process by an ordinary ordinance in the future. And so at some point, if the boundaries need to be changed, we'll just redraft that section and do a much shorter ordinance that just amends that section of the code.
Sounds good. Okay, thanks. Anybody else? More questions? We're good? All right, thank you, Counselor.
All right, thank you.
We'll go on to new business.
Item A, ordinance amending section 12-317 of municipal code regarding no parking zones.
The amendment would restrict parking on Wilson Street from North Davis Avenue to the end of the street. And we have Director Neese come forward, yes?
It's actually parking Zarnies.
Yeah.
So, good evening, Mayor and Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to be before you. Pretty simple issue before you to restrict totally parking on Wilson from Davis to the end of the road. It is, there's a portion of that that is approved from Davis to the subdivision street there. Elderberry Lane, thank you. And then from Elderberry Lane to the very end of the road, it is a gravel road. And so the issue is, it's difficult to maintain the road as it is with parking on it. It's a fairly narrow road, and so it really restricts the ability of the business owners there to get in and out if there's parking along it. The recommendation would be that you either take final action to approve the change to the ordinance or refer it to the next meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sure. Yeah, I did drive out there, look at this road, and I'm surprised, was there parking east of Davis Road sometime? People parked there? Do you know?
I don't think there's, I mean, I think it's allowed, but it doesn't happen.
Okay, yeah, I'm just surprised, but yeah, I agree, pretty narrow road, part in that east of Davis.
This is a projected area of growth in our community, and so I recognize that, I mean, to get ahead of it is probably a great idea. Did you happen to have a conversation with those businesses that it would possibly have an impact on?
So this was initiated by one of those businesses. One of the other businesses that would be impacted, I've made an effort to get in contact with them and haven't been able to.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it when we know that it's citizen-driven, so thank you.
Absolutely, that's good. You're right. Any other questions? How would you all like to proceed on this item?
Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the ordinance amending section 12-1317 of the municipal code.
Is there a second?
I will second.
And there is. Any other discussion on this? If not, let's have a roll call vote, please.
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaler?
Yes.
And Mayor Skidmore?
And yes on that. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item B, which would be the Commission Board Commission assignments for 2024. And I know there's 9 positions on this and 10 of us, so it'll come out pretty close to 2 each. There are a couple that are pretty well assigned. The mayor, I will be on the Franklin County Development Council as well as the Library Board, and typically the Mayor Pro Tem serves on the Chamber Board. And so and then also I should say Commissioner Kaler serves on the KMAE Board, which we appreciate her work on that as well, is very important. So that leaves several others on there. Let me pull that up. I'll take ideas and volunteers for those. Let's start with the Airport Advisory Board.
Mr. Mayor, since I was on that prior to you being on it, I wouldn't mind going back to it if you'd.
Would I do that? Okay. Everybody good with Commissioner Crowley? Okay. Once you take Airport Advisory, Chamber, it'd be fine for Mayor Pro Tem Allen on that one. Very good. I'll be on the Franklin County Development Council. Commissioner Kaler on the KMEA. Library Board I'm on. Next would be Neighborhood Revitalization Program Review Committee.
That's something I'm happy to stay on.
Commissioner Kaler, thank you. Stay on that and keep approving those homes on that too. Excellent job. Thanks. On the Auto Memorial Auditorium Advisory Board,
I would be fine staying on that.
you want to stay on that? And it looks like we're getting down to Prairie Paws.
Did we do OMA
Or
on
we-
Main Street?
Skip Main Street.
Oh, I missed that one. I'm sorry. Let's go Main Street, yeah. And it has been Commissioner Clayton.
Yep. And on Main Street, as you know, Ottawa Main Street's kind of going through a new revamp. We're redoing a lot of bylaws. During our yearly retreat in January, I transitioned from an ex officio to a true board member, so I'm able to vote. If you guys are fine with me still remaining on that, in that capacity.
That sounds
If you
good.
guys need to appoint another person to come as well, whatever works, I guess, from the commission standpoint, since that change was
I
done.
don't think that's a problem with our bylaws or anything. We're good there. And to avoid the redundancy, I guess it's a good idea to stay on there. So everybody good with that? And I guess Prairie Paws be the last one.
Yep,
then.
and I'm good at
And you're
Prairie
good.
Paws as well.
We got them all signed. We just need somebody on the Ministerial Alliance Board now, I guess, and we can work with that. Laura? Okay, good on that. Thank you all for taking those volunteer positions. That's something a lot of people don't realize when you become a commissioner. It's not just this we serve on. There are other committees and boards we serve on to help our community grow and be a better place to live. And so I'm glad to see you all participate in these things, different organizations. That's very important to have. So thank you all for volunteering for that.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to bring up, I think, with our recent purchase of the golf course, while we're talking about these, I think creating a board similar to the Airport Advisory Board for the golf course would likely be a wise choice going forward.
And I assume that could be something we,
In the purchase.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
And
already
that's a good
created.
idea. And I can see as appointing somebody once we
already
get to
created.
a certain point in that.
Mr.
Counselor.
Mayor, I think that was always the intention of the commission and prior city staff. We are still in the very preliminary phases of our conversations with JPM, who is our lessee out there. But we do think the time will be rapidly approaching when we'll come back to you and try to fulfill that recommendation. So if you give us just a little more time to work through some details, and the administration of the grant that helped us acquire the golf course, we've just very recently been able to put that into effect. So a lot of moving parts with that one, but we're hoping to get those parts reduced down, and then it will be very ripe to talk about citizens that are interested in golf and the golf course and the changes that they can help us make out there.
That's good. And does not require a golfer to be on the board, is that correct?
Not a good golfer anyway, yeah.
Well, we got plenty of those.
Some of us just own golf clubs.
Right, we can handle that very well. Thank you. Appreciate your comments there. I did fail to bring, Sarah Stoffer's here with Main Street. Did you have anything to add to what we talked about earlier? I didn't know if you wanted to say anything. I failed to mention you or bring your attention to that.
I would just say thank you. I know, as Mr. Finch said, it is a lot to the liquor laws, and I never realized how much it was until I started looking into it, and it can overload your brain. So I appreciate all of your guys' work on it and pushing this through. So
Very good.
we're excited.
All right, just want to give you that. Thank you.
Seniors, if you'll hold on 3 minutes, it'll be over, and you don't have to go. Just letting you know.
I think the
Okay,
30
maybe
minutes
5.
is up. Okay, yeah, good idea.
Pressure's on.
You're right.
That's right. No rush, Mayor Skidmore.
Yeah, that's right. We'll drag it out if we need to get credit for you guys. I know it's been a short meeting. We talked a lot about alcohol. This doesn't always happen, so just so you know, we talk about other things too. So let's go on to the comments by city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Commission, and for the high schoolers turning out, where we can honestly say it's where you can work like a farmer but party like a rock star, I guess. So a couple of items. We will be having a K-68 Access Management Study Area Stakeholders meeting here on Tuesday, February 13th from 4 to 6, and that's where our consulting engineers and KDOT officials will present an overview of the project and solicit comments and feedback from folks that are in and around the area impacted by the corridor itself. Want to bring up that we will be seeking a discussion on the authorization to secure a caterer's license for the OMA. The purpose is to enhance not only the service offerings, but to help generate additional revenue streams that will help offset operational costs at the OMA. Currently, that is done on a volunteer basis by the OMA board, and so this would offset that. The TIPS training and everything would still be continued, and we'll present that for discussion at the February 14th meeting. Also wanted to point out that during our last commission meeting, during quarterly reports, some questions came up over the acronym POSA and the property-oriented service activities, and so I'll be presenting a brief overview of that, where we coordinate department resources to solve issues in and around not just specific properties, but the area, whether it's blighted property that's impacting crime or a vacant house that may be having trespassers or vagrants, and so just a whole myriad of things, and so we'll highlight that at the next meeting as well. And then have one thing I'd like to point out kind of in this whole community activity and lifestyle meeting that we've been discussing here, and that's to ask what your receptiveness is for undergoing the process for levying a transient guest tax. Given our commitment to tourism and lifestyle entertainment through the OMA, our unique position as a crossroads for the Flint Hills Trail and the Prairie Spirit Trail, to the recent acquisition of Legacy, as well as activities in and around Ottawa University that bring visitors in from the outside, we are in a position for a specially dedicated revenue stream that would help offset some of those cost and marketing expenses for these venues and amenities that draw outside visitors to our community. Franklin County levies a 6% transient guest tax that's generated within the entirety of Ottawa. And so in 2023, for the state fiscal year, so from July 2022 to July 23, the Department of Revenue reported that Franklin County collected $296,264 from stays in Ottawa. Prior year's collection totaled $277,778. So there's a significant merit to considering the levying of this 6% transient guest revenue stream. This initiative could help unlock additional revenue streams and further support and enhance our city services and infrastructure that support marketing and attraction to these outside visitors. This would leverage the model already established by the county, and that's been effectively utilized through a charter resolution that would exceed the 2% levy that is the base levy. So I believe we have a compelling case to explore a similar approach by implementing this transient guest tax. It could provide a sustainable financial mechanism to promote our amenities here and to also help offset those costs. I know we've recently had to send various community stakeholders and city departments even to the county for requesting participation, and so I know this would give us a little more autonomy. So is this something that you would like to consider further discussion on?
Commissioners? I think so. We get a consensus on that, you bet.
And with that, that concludes my report. If
Good.
there are no further questions for myself or staff.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Very good. Let's go to comments by our city commissioners. Let's start with Commissioner Crowley.
Just go Chiefs.
Okay, well said. Okay. Pro Tem Allen.
I have no comment.
Okay. Commissioner Kaler.
I do want to thank Richard Jackson for being here, and I'm so glad that our city attorney noted that he was a mayor here in the city of Ottawa, and once a mayor, you're always mayor. And I was honored to follow Richard as the president of the League of Kansas Municipalities, and so once a president, always a president. But I don't think it can be understated the amount of service that you've given to our community and to our state, and just an absolute thanks, not only in the month of February, but always. So thank you for your service.
Very good. Well said. Very good. Commissioner Clayton.
I will just ditto the Go Chiefs, and that fireworks are not legal within the city limits of Ottawa, just as a reminder.
Killjoy.
I know.
Very good. You're right. And just to echo Mr. Jackson being here, thank you for being here. I always remember this story you told us once where somebody called in when we started being televised, and they didn't know Richard Jackson and Richard Neinstedt, and which is which. And Richard Jackson said, "I'm the one with the mustache." I'll never forget that. I still got it. That was great. I appreciate that levity. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to add one more thing too. Recently, some of you have heard about E15 fuel coming to Ottawa. Representative Sharice Davids fought hard to get a pump and a grant to be able to install a pump here at the Love's Country Store. And that's coming soon. And the good thing about E15, it burns cleaner, so we have less of a carbon footprint. Higher octane, so less knocking on your engine. It's also 10 cents a gallon cheaper, so you teenagers ought to hear about that. That helps a little bit on your fuel costs. So watch soon. They'll be having a ribbon cutting at Love sometime to introduce the E15. I believe any car newer than 2001 should be able to run on it, I believe. Check your manuals in your cars and make sure you can. But anyway, it's good to have that coming. I think we were only one of 10, I believe, sites in the nation to get this grant, so we're pretty proud to get that here in Ottawa, Kansas, and put our name on the map. I just really don't have anything else. I just want to say thanks again for your class being here, Mrs. Campbell. Thanks for bringing everybody here. I hope I can sometime for your class. We'll get sick sometime and let me know ahead of time, and I'll be glad to put on my calendar. And I'm glad to come to your class and talk a little bit more in detail about the City Commission, how it works. I am serving on a panel at the middle school Friday to answer questions from the middle schoolers about the City Commission, how it works, and that should be pretty interesting too. So we're looking forward to that. Let's look at the announcements. We have February 14th. That'd be a City Commission meeting at 4 p.m. That is Valentine's Day, so remember that, everybody. A short meeting, that's right. And one more thing for you men who have girlfriends. They do not make belated Valentine's Day cards. Just know that. Just trust me. Trust me on that one. Okay. February 21st, we have our city commission meeting at 10, and then February 28th, we have our 4 p.m. city hall meeting. Anything else to come before the city commission meeting tonight?